Okay, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to Live from Saturn. I'm Duncan Gale.
Cody Decker.
And today we are going to be covering H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. I wanted to make sure I got that title correct because I always get it mixed up with, there was this movie In the Mouth of Madness, which I think was probably inspired by it in some way, but At the Mountains of Madness, yeah, that's what we're covering. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about, this is also what inspired The Thing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, yeah, so yeah, I mean, H.P. Lovecraft, yeah.
We know him. We love him.
Yeah. The man, the myth, the legend. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've ever heard of, like, yeah, Lovecraft, horror, you know, Cthulhu, all that stuff, yeah, this was all based on this actual, the work of this actual guy, H.P. Lovecraft, who was an American author who, lived in the early 20th century. Relatively obscure during his life. Didn't really have much success, but yeah, born in Rhode Island. Yeah, lived up in the New England area for most of his life, and but had this very imaginative sort of view of the world, of the cosmos, and was portrayed in many different short stories and novellas, and has had a really big influence, but yeah, really didn't start to have that influence until long after he passed away. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let's just say a good representation of America in the 1940s.
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. There's stuff with him, but
yeah.
This is the thing. Which one, you know, is I always racist. Which yes, but
okay, yeah, sure. Yeah,
he at the end of his life, he did regret that, which he expressed. And I have not found any like racist undertones in the stories. I went through his complete works, and I didn't really find.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, he was writing in like the 20s and the 30s. Yeah. So you know that period of time. Yeah, I think this came out in like 1936 or something. So yeah. I mean, basically, at the time that he was living in America, his views on race were about average. I mean, not worse than most people, not better than most people. Yeah. I think that's fair to say. But yeah. I mean, coming into this, I didn't have much familiarity or background with H.P. Lovecraft, except for having watched that HBO show Lovecraft Country, which actually does go into a lot of the sort of racial undertones of stuff. There's that show. I can't say that all of the show is good. It's sort of wildly uneven, but the episodes of it that are good are very good. Yeah, so I would recommend certain episodes of that show. Yeah,
and he also writes about the Dreamlands, and that's a story to also check out. Where he writes like straight up fantasy sometimes.
Yeah,
that takes place within the universe, which I'm actually like that's my favorite one is the Dreamlands one. But this is like I like this is like the story. Guillermo del Toro has been saying he wants to make a movie for like 30 years, and it's like you're a millionaire. Why are you telling me?
Right.
You should be able to make it.
Yeah. So Lovecraft's influence, very, very extensive, and I mean he's one of these interesting sort of authors. I mean, I guess probably J.R.R. Tolkien is probably the best kind of comparison, where Lovecraft basically sort of created this like whole mythology and world already, and then he sort of references it within his writings as though it's a real thing. Like, within At the Mountains of Madness, there are frequent references to the Necronomicon as if it's an actual book, but it's not. And so that's a big thing that's going on in Lovecraft's writings. Another big thing that I found was he is credited with this viewpoint called cosmicism, which is basically the view that like the universe, that like there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the universe of which humanity is a very small part. Like, humanity is very insignificant within the entire cosmos. It's basically sort of the opposite of anthropocentrism, which would be like, oh yeah, no, it's all about humanity. Yeah, we're the most important thing. Lovecraft is the exact opposite of that. He's like, no. There's all this other crazy stuff that we have no idea about that actually preceded us, and we're totally insignificant in this.
The fun thing too, because it's like there's like occult supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
And there's aliens that just have high technology.
Right.
And then there's also aliens that have their own occult stuff.
Right.
And then there's other aliens that do both. And then it's like this occult stuff, you can do rituals or you can use technology to like interact with it.
Right.
So it's really fun how they like, you know, some guy like made a machine that like tapped into like that realm, and they're like turn the thing off, man.
Right.
But like you could also like equally like learn the proper rituals if you get the Necronomicon and open it up the same way. And aliens have their own gods that they worship, and sometimes they just hang out on Earth, and sometimes they like want to do stuff.
Right.
So it's a really cool grand world happening.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll get into the story itself. Yeah, so this is a novella, so about 100 pages. So at the Mountains of Madness, it's basically about an expedition to Antarctica, it starts pretty slowly with just a sort of description of the scientists taking all these samples and so forth, and very kind of mundane details, but there's this sort of underlying sense that they discovered some horrible things here, and they're sort of trying to warn people against making any further expeditions here, because basically there's some bad stuff here.
Yeah, which we're not allowed to go to Antarctica.
We're not?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
In real life?
Yeah, you're not allowed to go there.
Why not? I mean, there are people there.
Yeah, but you have to get like approval.
Oh, okay. You have to get approval.
Well, you can't go and be like, I just want to see what you guys are doing. Like, no, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's also it's a conspiracy theory that's fun, but it's also like, I mean, I mean, what do you mean you can't these are bases. We don't have you can't just come and hang out.
All right. Did you ever read The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay? That novel? Oh, it's a cool novel. It's basically sort of a fictionalized version of like what happened at the beginning of comic books, and like these two Jewish guys in New York creating comic books and stuff. And it's interesting because one character he's a Jewish immigrant who really wants to get back at the Nazis, and so when World War right, exactly, yeah, and so when World War II happens, he enlists and he gets stationed in Antarctica. And so there's this long sequence of him, just a description of him in Antarctica, and just like how there needs to be an American presence on Antarctica, and like there's also a German presence there, and he like encounters one other German soldier, and that's like the extent of his combat. It's so the Antarctic theater of World War II.
The Cold War.
Yeah.
That's right, folks.
Okay, good.
Just waiting the whole time.
It's good.
That's cool. Is it like it's like a drama or?
Yeah. It's a great novel. Yeah. A lot of cool stuff going on in it. Yeah.
So in this, he's like being brought into this expedition, and they're like sort of like, what's going on? And they're like, well, get on the. You got to go. You'll see when you get there. Right. Definitely the thing in a movie that would be like credits are still playing while this is happening.
Yeah. This is. Well, I guess I'll tip my hand already. I didn't love this. This is not the easiest sort of. I mean, there's not a lot as a narrative. This is not that action-packed. It's definitely a slow burn, and the first, I mean, the way that this novel is sort of written, it's written like a scientific journal. And I mean, and it has the sort of dryness of that. And I can understand there's a sort of technique going on there where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, there's this horrifying stuff coming up, but we want to sort of underplay it,
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I think that is like I've seen like reviews, and it's also like, again, I listen to this in audio, so I can passively sort of skip a lot of stuff happening.
Sure.
And I'm guessing we can use the point that you stopped as sort of the break to and we'll read like a comment or two.
Right.
Which if you leave comments, we'll read. So like how far did you get?
Well,
because I'm curious if you got to the payoff.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even say how far I got because it's kind of like, after the first couple of pages, I started just sort of skimming the book,
which I would agree in the beginning. Very skimmable. It's
right,
very like and microscope 2 has to go over here and what is and then but I wondered why, and it's like and I think the narrator of this is actually a geologist, and so he's talking about taking geological readings, and which is the most.
You like totally read my mind. Yeah, I mean, no offense to any geologists out there, but to me, like, I'm not a big science guy in general, but yeah, I mean, so science is a little dull, and of the sciences, geology is like the dullest science to me.
And because it's like, it's not even the part that would be applicable for because it really is like these stones are this old. It's like, all right. That changes nothing.
Right.
In my world. It's not even like every other science. You can be like, oh, but like, I'm like, they're like, did you know it formed like a layer?
Right. Yeah. So like, there's all of these like, sort of subtle scientific observations that are supposed to, be kind of significant in some way. Like, oh this is irregular. It's like, oh yeah, no, I've never seen anything like this before. And it's like, okay,
you're dipping into a Scottish accent there. I don't know.
Hey. This be irregular, Captain.
It's like you were trying to spice up even summarizing what like your brain was subconsciously trying to make it more entertaining. I agree absolutely. I mean, a lot of the stories too.
Right.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be it. It's supposed to be like so real that like when things start going crazy, it's more believable.
Yeah. But that's fair. Yeah.
But the thing is, when people think of Lovecraft, they are not thinking about the pages of a geologist explaining that the rocks are looking kind of weird.
Right.
They are thinking of the payoff at the very end, where you go like, Jesus, did you guys see that?
Right.
That was crazy. That is not what most of his stories are like.
Right. Well, and that's a sort of another thing that is a bit challenging about Lovecraft's writing is that a lot of the stuff that he seems to be sort of writing about and sort of wanting to express is stuff that like can't be expressed in language. And I mean, and obviously he's inspired a lot of artwork, and I mean, if you know about Cthulhu and all that stuff, you probably have seen pictures of it, paintings of it done by various people. And so that's cool, if you have that as a reference. But yeah, just reading the stuff itself, it's like it was this, tremendous, vast thing that I couldn't even see the end of it, and it's like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, that's
so. What was it? To be fair, this is a geologist writing this, and not a writer.
It's true.
So he's like, look, you asked me to describe the stratus of these stones. I can do that all day. But that was crazy. I can't even. A lot of them are. I can't even like begin to describe what that looks like.
So I mean, if Lovecraft was trying to pretend to be a geologist, writing very boringly, wow, amazing performance.
I agree with all that. I mean,
okay. Good.
I love his stuff, but it's not perfect.
Sure.
And it really is like by the time I got into it, I already knew what everything was supposed to look like based off all the fan stuff.
Exactly.
So when they go like, I couldn't even begin describing. Like, I know what it is.
Right.
It's like, don't worry, someone else did that for you. Someone else went ahead and drew it and like showed me diagrams. So I'm not incredibly upset when he's like, man, wild.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, as often happens with this podcast, I mean, I was sort of running behind on time, so I was kind of expecting, 100-page novella, I can get through this easily. Yeah, and it was not as easy reading as I was expecting it to be.
There's long books that feel short, and there's short books that can feel much longer.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this was so this is not a breezy, adventure story. This is not that kind of thing.
You have to meet him more than halfway.
Absolutely. So and that's all just to say, I mean, if you have some time, and you really want to sort of get into it, and read it through, slower and sort of have it kind of wash over you and really kind of get into it. I can appreciate how that you might be able to get into it that way, but it's not.
And there is a reason when everyone hears Lovecraft they go Cthulhu, because no one remembers anything else that happened in these books. Right. There is a reason people know like 2 monsters. Yeah. Because no one sat through the other 100 books and went like, oh yeah, what was that? Right. It was like a dragon or Dagon? What's his deal? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's like one shot of him at the end. It's just a guy being like, that really messed up my head. Right. And it's like, yeah, dude, if you have the time. Yeah. But again, Lovecraft is a niche thing for a reason. Mm-hmm. He has a pop culture. He doesn't like the pop culture presence is people know what Cthulhu is. Right. And that even his story is very like, man, the walls are like weird. Right. I don't have like the guy's like, I don't have a frame of reference to even describe this for you, but it's like it's not that good either. Right. It's not. I wouldn't say it's his best work. Okay. It is just everyone knows who Cthulhu is. Yeah. Okay. Right. See, this isn't for everyone for good reason. Sure. For a lot of reasons, even if you're even. Right. Fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, so because how far did you get? Well, I skimmed through the whole thing. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, and because it is like the argument for him is if you get in this guy's world of like, hey, I'm just your average geologist. Yeah. All the build up to slowly, and then the fact that he doesn't know, it is like, yeah, there is no like answer. Right. And which is like in this story that is like the thing, and they have to speculate, and there is a much more fast-paced way of doing it. There's a reason also that a famous director can't get this launched as a movie. Right. I mean, it's not like in The Thing. Sure. In The Thing, they're like, they're lighting them up, they're like doing this, they're having like these like fun conversations, philosophical, but yeah. So he's like, man, I just talk about rocks. And it's like, are they like rock monsters? And it's like, no. Right. No, it's just these geological readings are highly irregular. It's like, dang. Yeah. Like how irregular? He's like, I can't even begin to describe. I mean, do you know what granite content is normally? This is very irregular. Yeah, I mean, yeah. A lot of his stories is just every character going, the readings are off the charts. Right. Yeah. And they're like, what? Yeah. But, right. We can like just sort of jump to when it gets interesting. Okay. Which is they discover a life form. Right. And that's like the secret thing that we're not supposed to let people know about. Right. Yeah, and the life form is basically like perfectly preserved, like and there's like nothing about it that like makes sense to the biologist. It's like, oh yeah, no, I mean, given the biological development of things, from when this life form is dated, this makes no sense. Yeah, this is like way more. They brought in the geologist to say like, not only is this crazy, but even even the rock structure doesn't
exactly.
make, and they're like, yeah, we needed to fly you out here.
Right, exactly. So we go from arcane geological knowledge to arcane biological knowledge, and it's like, oh yeah, no, the carbon readings on this, yeah, it's just like, whoa, and
Yep, you're like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this makes no sense. Yeah, and and again, yeah. I mean, if you're willing to kind of like slow down and like take in the details, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. When I tell people that this story is cool,
Right.
I tell them the payoff at the end. I do not tell them, and I don't even recommend it because I'm like I can summarize this for you.
Right.
Here's like there's like a really cool conversation. And then there's a really cool thing at the end. Right.
And there are a couple of explicit references in here to an Edgar Allan Poe story, the Gordon Pym, which was like the closest thing to a novel I think that Edgar Allan Poe wrote. Oh, actually, yeah. I actually have it here. I was talking about, I was interested myself because of the Antarctic scene of Poe's only long story, the disturbing and enigmatical Arthur Gordon Pym. And he makes reference to it a couple of times throughout this. And and we just covered Edgar Allan Poe, and we didn't cover that. But that's the explicit kind of influence that Poe had on Lovecraft here, is that, characters within his stories reference that.
Now, I also heard this from a Patton Oswalt joke, so I don't know if this is true or not, but Poe is the one, because there's the thing of, like, if the universe is infinite and there's stars, like, everywhere, why isn't the night sky just completely bright? And Poe was the one who suggested that the light just hasn't gotten to us yet.
Oh, interesting.
And the theory of dark matter is supposed to be that dark space in the universe, which is like, it's completely like, so like they're like, oh, maybe it's made out of stuff.
Right.
And Edgar Allan Poe is like, maybe like there is stars out there, but like it takes a long time.
Right.
I don't like dark matter. It feels like, I don't know. They're like,
cop out. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, it takes up 99% of the universe. Like, what are you basing that off? You don't have any.
Right.
Do you have any? Like, no.
Right.
That's my dark matter bit.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard somebody trying to like prove the existence of God based on dark matter. Yeah, because it's like, oh yeah, there's so much we don't know that's dark matter. So why can't that also be God in a way?
I mean, it's okay.
Right. And yeah, I mean, if you don't really understand science, then you can use it to prove whatever you want.
You can just say you believe in God, and I would accept that more than like that. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, don't go that route. Yeah.
I would just accept that you're like, I feel it. I'm like, that's more legitimate than like, I mean, look at all that other stuff we don't know about.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you know what? So if this has enraptured you into the plot of Mountain of Madness, go ahead and check it out. They find some spooky things out there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Well, how about we read a comment?
Okay, let's do it.
And you can leave comments, and we read them. And
yes, we do.
And our Hyperion episode.
Ah, yes.
Actually, we might be out of comments now that I think. No, we're not. Techno Tengu, I recognize him. He says, "You guys sold me on this. It's so hard to find a good sci-fi book."
Yeah.
You already read this.
I did.
I am losing my mind.
You're at the Mountains of Madness.
I am losing my gosh dang mind right now. I'll cut this out, but I'll include it at the end of the video.
Okay, good.
Let's just sit. Yeah. God. Lead on, Don. Okay.
All right.
Did we do a spoiler break? Or we already read? Did we read that comment in Edgar Allan Poe?
We did, yeah.
God. Okay. Well, yeah, we're out of comments, so you can.
We don't have comments from any of the other recent episodes.
Oh, actually, we do. Okay. Jesus Christ. Let's not worry about how many episodes we record in one go.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's from Techno Tengu.
Okay.
So I can jump right up. Well, I don't think anything recent from Marvel has been stand out amazing. I recently watched Morbius, and suddenly I'm not super upset about wasted potential. Just don't mess up Black Panther. I think that's like the agreement is like, as long as Marvel does Black Panther, it's like, just you can mess around with other stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you watched Morbius and you're happy with that, then yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's Morbius was a fever dream if you watch it. Mm-hmm. How about Alloy of Law? One of our most intense debates we had.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
By Will. Now I want more of those Decker magic explanations. Also, yes, Cold as Heck is a banger of a book. Wild West setting. Awesome action and lore. Giga chat of a main character. If Frank didn't like that book, I'd actually be super surprised.
Okay.
And Frank, unfortunately, is at the Mountains of Madness, which is why he can't be here today.
Yes, yeah. Godspeed.
Okay. So they discover aliens.
Yeah, so they discover a huge alien civilization. Abandoned city. Yeah.
Non-Euclidean.
Non-Euclidean.
He loves that term.
Yeah, there's all kinds of like weird geometrical stuff going on. Just a long, detailed explanation of this civilization that existed. Yeah, before us. That was very complex, and it had these beings. Yeah, the old ones. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or the elder things or something. Like that.
Yeah. The
They're
elder
now,
things, something like that. And then then they like created these other.
The great old ones.
Yeah, the great old ones, and they created these like subordinate beings to like do stuff for them.
Yeah, Shoggoths.
Yeah, and so basically, it was this complex civilization, and I think they make some reference to the fact that like there were some human-looking things that were their slaves or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we find out humans get the short end of the stick a lot.
Oh yeah.
We don't really humans come out on top every now and then in Lovecraft, but it's very much they enslaved us.
Right.
They sort of just get over it or something else, or there's like revolts, and sometimes we win. So they're exploring that, and they were also dissecting those alien bodies they found.
Right.
And this is where we get to like sort of one of the two highlights of this, which I'm curious if you were even able to keep focus enough for this part.
Sure, yeah.
So the things start waking up.
Right.
And they start killing the humans. And they're like, oh, it's monsters that got loose.
Right.
But then they look and they see that the humans were bisected just like how they were doing it to the aliens.
Yeah.
And they were doing it. They like cut the dogs in half, and like they cut the humans in half. They're like merging them, like all these experiments. And like their first instinct is like, oh, what these sick, cruel things.
Right.
But then they're like that. I think the other guy, who I think should have been the main character, because he's like,
yeah.
I think he is a biologist, but he's like, that's the guy you have in the alien story. So he's like, no, don't you see? They're scientists.
Right.
They're men just like us. It doesn't matter. This is where it's weird, because I'm like, this is like the moral of this. He's like, it doesn't matter what you look like. You are men. They were men, and they were also like pretty mad that we were killing them. So I thought that was like a really good speech, done much better. And then the main character's like, yes, in the stratosphere of the rock. I don't even know if that's a rock term. Stratosphere.
It sounds right.
Stratium.
Strata.
Yeah. So that was like, do you remember that part?
Vaguely, yeah. I mean, that's another thing is that, I should remember that part, because there is like almost no dialogue in this. It's like all description, and that's another thing that makes this sort of hard to get through. Yeah. Is that there's very little in terms of like people actually interacting with each other and stuff like that. So
because he also doesn't talk much. Probably of this cast, the worst pick for the main character.
Right.
Because the guy that gives the good speech, that's the guy he like meets and he's working with. So it's like, he should have. He's like, what are we but men? And it's like, I'd like to. What does he have to feel about this story? And they're like the duo. They're like the only survivors now. They're like stuck in this city,
right?
And they're seeing these Shoggoth things that are like these are what the Thing is based off. Okay. What Venom's based off.
Oh, okay.
It's like these like black balls, and they make this and like teeth, and they can shape shift, and it's sort of like nano organic tech because they can like form any body thing.
Right.
And they make a noise, which is Tekatili.
Yeah, although the Tekatili, that's like something that he remembers from the Poe story. It's like not even something that they're actually making. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe they're making it sound like it, but
He's like, I'm basing it off of the noise of Edgar.
Yeah.
So not only can he not describe it, he's using someone. He's like, if you read Poe, there's like a thing that makes a noise. It's kind of like that.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Because they say it at the end too. It's like that is not a creepy noise.
Right.
Because I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, it's just sort of odd, but
Tekatili.
Tekatili, yeah.
He's like, I don't believe it made a noise that sounded. Nothing sounds like Tekatili.
Yeah, it's pretty far fetched.
Yeah, was it high pitched?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was was it spooky or?
Right.
But they make that noise. Maybe it's the clickety clack of them, but they don't walk. They're like puddles of goo. Right. They also meet a bunch of giant penguins.
Yeah, giant albino penguins. Yeah. And those and those are basically just like farm animals for the aliens or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the thing with these is they are aliens from another world that travel using solar sails.
Right.
Which I guess is like their wings can harness sunlight to move fast, and they used to be able to travel faster than light.
Right.
And then they lost that ability, and now they're just stuck on Earth. And they were like, I guess we'll open up like a penguin farm.
Right.
We'll like hope that the other guys show up to like get us out of here.
Yeah,
it was like a fluid they would coat themselves in to let them travel faster than light. Yeah, it's like what that means, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of interesting descriptions in this book. A lot of stuff that can really make you, I mean, if you, want to take some substances and then think about, descriptions in this book, you might have a nice time doing that. But in terms of like stuff that happens, I kind of feel like we've covered it.
I was like, oh, that's it. I was like, there's two highlights. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, there's one highlight. Yeah, I was like, and then and the second one, I'll remember it when it's over.
Right.
Yeah, they get picked up, and he's like, that was. He's like, that messed with my head, man.
Right.
He's like, I still hear the noise.
Yeah.
Tekatili. It's like, no, and he's like, they didn't make that noise. It's like that, the best song in the world by Tenacious D.
Right. I mean, it's like in a movie when somebody is like, oh, I wrote like the most brilliant speech ever, and then they go up to give the speech. And like they start the speech, and then like it just like dissolves to when they finish the speech, and it's like, oh wow, that was the most brilliant speech ever. Yes, and it's and you never actually see the speech itself, and it's just because it's like and that would have required us to actually write the most brilliant speech ever. I mean it's kind of like that in this book, except that in this book it's like he saw something that changed him forever, and he was never the same after it. And then, and I didn't dare look at the thing that did that to him. And so there's all these references to.
I kept my eyes closed because I didn't want to look. It's like
right.
You couldn't get like a peek. He's like, no, it was too spooky.
Right. Yeah,
it was too spooky to even describe. I'm not gonna.
Exactly.
I hate the one where he'll go like, I'll spare you the details.
Just this one time.
It's so scary. I don't even want to burden you.
I'll talk about all of the geological details, but this stuff, no.
Yeah, this is my geological.
No, you're not interested in this.
You would go. You're gonna thank me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you boy.
Right.
I really like his stories, but I'm also the kind of person that is I'm fine like turning my brain off and be like, I don't care, and then and then be like, oh, that's really cool that the aliens are astronauts. Mm-hmm. Now, is the whole story worth that buildup?
Right.
No, and I would even go so far as to say is if you're interested in Lovecraft, you can probably get as much, if not more, satisfaction from reading the Wikipedia, the Lovecraft wiki articles explaining because the lore is very interesting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dang, because it's like in the stories you find, oh, that race they'll come up later. Right. And it has really occurred to me I did not pick one of the stories that I think is like a good read.
Well, I mean, that may be true, although from what I read, At the Mountains of Madness is considered to be like one of his best stories.
I think his Dreamland is his best.
Okay. Yeah.
There's one that is just straight up Scooby-Doo goofy.
Okay.
Where like the aliens are pulling like shenanigans, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah,
I don't know. I legitimately don't know if he was having fun or not.
Interesting.
But it's also like when people say it's his best, it's like, what are they thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, and the stuff that's considered the best of certain authors a lot of times is not necessarily, what individual people like the best. But
The Shadow over Innsmouth, I would say that's like his best. Oh, that's spooky.
Yeah.
This one, lore-wise, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, basically, my take on Lovecraft after having read this is like, okay, Lovecraft, he's kind of like J.R.R. Tolkien, but if J.R.R. Tolkien had only written the Silmarillion, it's like, it's like, okay, yeah, all of this like, background lore stuff is there, but yeah, I mean, did he actually write anything like Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit? So yeah.
He cast a spell that was so fantastical I can't even describe it.
Right.
I'm gonna take that approach. I'm gonna be a journalist who writes like Lovecraft and be like, and the event was so amazing.
Wow.
I couldn't even describe it to you.
You might grab some people with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, I don't agree that it's scarier to not know.
Right.
People are like, oh, it's and Lovecraft isn't the only one who does this. And you'll see they're like, oh, it's spookier that we didn't see the monster. And I'm like, no, it's not. Mm-hmm. It would have been scarier if I saw the monster. Right. Because that's very scary.
But isn't it all the more scary because it's like, whatever is in your, imagination. And it's like, well, I mean, that might be true sometimes, but that's a bit of a cop-out for a writer to keep doing that.
Yeah, it's scarier in your head.
Right.
It's a sister of the book is better in your head. It's like, no. The book was a better story.
Right.
It's better in my head because that's where my brain processes information. Mm-hmm. But I didn't make the story up. If the story was better in my head, I would be a writer.
Right.
So, yeah, I like At the Mountain of Madness, but it is not for everyone. And it's there's a reason people know about Cthulhu.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, the legacy of his ideas is very, very wide ranging, and I'm sure there's no accident because of that. But yeah, in terms of the page to page compellingness of the writing itself, Yeah.
There's I read it or I listened to his complete collections, and I'm like, there was like 4 standouts.
Okay.
There's one that's I think it is his first one that's like very Edgar Allan Poe. Okay. Where they go into like a cavern, and there's like a voice that they hear, and it's like, dang, that's probably, it was very creepy too. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I know like 4 stories.
Right.
And the sci-fi ones are usually the most, like the ones where it's just like a guy gets like his body swapped with an alien, and he's just in like an alien city in its body, and it just took over his body for 5 years. And then he wakes back up in his body, and they're like, yeah, you went insane.
Oh wow.
and he has to figure out what it was doing with it. And then so there's like this alien civilization that just does that.
Oh wow.
And they treat him like a celebrity when he was at their city, and they go into that. And he looks like this crazy alien. And he sees another one, and it's like, did it happen to you too? He's like, yeah. It's like, no, I'm like a bird.
Oh wow.
I'm like a bird guy.
Oh, that's crazy. That's interesting.
See,
yeah.
So yeah, I'll try again with another story that I think is more your alley.
Okay.
But yeah, you have now read his most famous story.
All right. There we go.
All right.
Excellent.
And if you want a Lovecraftian story that I think is more accessible, check out Dead Space.
Okay.
That's a game that's very inspired by that.
All right.
And you fight them using hardware tools. The twist being it's in the far future. So that stapler is now the equivalent of a laser gun by our standards.
Okay.
And so there's a reason we're able to. It's sort of like, oh, if this happened in our time, we'd be destroyed. But the aliens decided to attack in far away enough in the future where we stand a chance.
Oh wow. Wow.
And it's pretty good. You play an engineer, you're a space truck mechanic, and not a soldier. Do you have anything to recommend to someone who maybe wouldn't like this, but is looking for something like this?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would recommend certain episodes of Lovecraft Country. Yeah. So check that out. Yeah.
Check out Lovecraft Country. All right. Now, you've been dodging this for a while.
Yeah.
What's the outro?
Oh my God. I see something that I can't even imagine. Oh my God, what is that?
I'm going insane.
I'll never be the same after seeing that. Ah!